You have been moving through water for weeks, not dramatically, not in the way that announces itself with noise, but you have felt it. The way your usual directness has been replaced by something softer and harder to name. The way your drive has not disappeared exactly, but has gone underground, moved beneath the surface of your ordinary days, operating in a register you cannot see from above. You have been in Pisces season, with Mars, the warrior, fully submerged in the most dissolving sign in the zodiac since the 2nd of March. And the water has been doing its work, taking things, softening edges that were too hard to carry into what comes next, building something in you that looks like passivity from the outside and is anything but. Tonight, that preparation meets its purpose. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, Mars at 15 degrees and 16 minutes of Pisces forms an exact trine with Jupiter at 15 degrees and 16 minutes of Cancer. And in the same evening, just hours earlier, the Sun crossed into 0 degrees of Aries, marking the astrological new year. Tonight the warrior and the king align. Tonight the water and the water speak the same language at the same degree. And what they are saying, in the ancient tongue of celestial mechanics, is this: the door is open. Move now. Here is what nobody is telling you about the degree this trine is forming at. The 15th degree of Cancer is not simply any degree in any sign. The medieval astrologers of Persia and Arabia, whose calculations built the foundation of everything we call modern astrology, designated specific degrees within each sign as the place where each planet reaches its absolute peak of power. Not the entire sign, a specific degree. For Jupiter, that degree is the 15th degree of Cancer. It is where Jupiter reaches what the tradition called its exaltation degree, the point where the greater benefic stops being generous and becomes sovereign. The difference between a planet that is helpful and a planet that is operating at its highest possible expression. Jupiter stationed direct here on March 10th. It has been sitting at this degree, barely moving, accumulating presence and power for weeks. And tonight Mars, traveling from the direction of Pisces, arrives at the exact trine point, 120 degrees away, at the same degree. 15 degrees of Pisces to 15 degrees of Cancer, the warrior meeting the king at the king's place of greatest authority. The ancient Greek and Roman astrologers, who first categorized the trine as the most harmonious aspect in the sky, called it the aspect of completion. Not the beginning, not the test, the completion. The trine is what happens when two planets are in the right relationship to each other, to allow their energies to move without friction. A square has resistance built into it, an opposition has polarity, a conjunction has fusion, but a trine has flow, the same way a river flows downhill. Not because the river is straining to move, but because the geography is arranged in a way that makes moving the most natural thing in the world. Tonight, the geography is arranged in exactly that way. Between Mars in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer, the current runs downhill. Whatever you set in motion tonight will move with an ease that is not the ease of avoidance. It is the ease of perfect timing. And here is the element that makes this specific trine different from any other Mars-Jupiter trine you will encounter. Both planets are in water signs. Mars is in Pisces, Jupiter is in Cancer. Water trine water, and water trine water carries an emotional charge that fire or earth or air simply does not produce. When two water signs trine each other, the action they support is not the action of the hammer. It is not the action of the charging soldier. It is the action of the current, of the tide, of the force that moves mountains not by striking them, but by surrounding them and patiently, inevitably, wearing away everything that was never solid to begin with. The Sacred Pause Astrology podcast described this transit with a phrase I want you to hold. Flow is river speak for power. Mars in Pisces is an underestimated warrior. It does not announce itself. It does not charge. It circulates. It finds the path of least resistance, not because it is weak, but because it has learned that the path of least resistance is often the fastest path to where the movement actually needs to go. Tonight, meeting Jupiter in Cancer at the exaltation degree, this circulating warrior receives something it has been building toward since it entered Pisces on March 2nd. It receives the king's blessing, the expansion, the permission to move with the full force of the greatest benefic behind it. Renée Fishman, writing specifically about tonight's transit, called it your heavy lift energy. And I want to stay with that description because it captures something precise. The heavy lift is not the glamorous action. It is the action you have been building toward for weeks or months that felt too heavy to attempt during the retrograde fog. the conversation that required more emotional courage than the drag of Mercury retrograde in Pisces could support, the creative beginning that needed the water to be moving forward before it could take its first step, the decision that you knew was right but that required the specific kind of brave that does not come from force but from faith, the heavy lift. Tonight the sky is handing you the capacity to do it, not because the work is less hard than it was, because you are stronger than you were before the preparation, and the current is finally running in the direction you are moving. Let me tell you what emotional courage actually is, because this is the kind of courage tonight's transit generates, and it is the least understood and least celebrated kind. Physical courage is spectacular, it is visible, it makes noise, it has a narrative arc that is easy to follow. But emotional courage is quieter. It is the courage it takes to feel what you actually feel when you could more comfortably feel something manageable instead. It is the courage of the person who, when asked how they are, answers honestly instead of fine. It is the courage of the action taken not because the outcome is certain, but because the alternative to taking it is to continue carrying the weight of what you know you should do and haven't. Jupiter in Cancer, the sign of the heart, the sign of the rib cage that protects the most vulnerable organs, amplifies this specific courage tonight. It takes the warrior's drive, which Mars in Pisces has been refining in water for 3 weeks, and expands it with the specific wisdom that what is worth fighting for is always, in Cancer's understanding, what is worth loving. Bruce Lee understood this. He did not have Mars in Pisces, but the principle he lived and articulated is the principle this transit embodies. Be like water. Water does not force the rock. It finds the crack. It works in the dark. It does not announce its progress until the day the canyon is complete. Mars in Pisces trine Jupiter in Cancer is not asking you to charge. It is asking you to move with the specific intelligence of water, meeting the specific expansiveness of the king who has been waiting at his exaltation degree for exactly this moment. Now let me show you the additional weight this night carries, because the Mars-Jupiter trine would be significant on any evening, but tonight it is happening on the same day the sun entered Aries. The astrological new year began this morning. Mercury stationed direct yesterday, ending weeks of fog. All planets are now in forward motion. And in the same evening that the new year begins and the fog lifts and every planet in the solar system is moving forward for the first time in months, the warrior meets the king in the most harmonious aspect the sky knows how to form. This is not a coincidence. This is a continuation. The eclipse season cracked what was already fracturing. The retrograde months dissolved what was already dissolving. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries rewrote the contract between structure and dream at the beginning of all things. And tonight, on the first night of the new astrological year, Mars and Jupiter hand you the action window that everything leading to this moment was building toward. There is a shadow side to this transit, and I'm going to tell you what it is, because knowing it is the difference between using this window and losing it. Jupiter as the great enabler. The trine between Mars and Jupiter is so harmonious, so frictionless, so naturally flowing, that it can enable movement in any direction, including the old direction, the one you have been circling because it is familiar. The Cancer habits that feel like safety but function as escape. The emotional pattern that has been present since before you had a name for it. When the door is open this wide and the current is this strong, it is important to know which direction you are walking before the current picks you up and carries you, because the current will carry you regardless. The question is where. AstrologyKing says almost any action you begin tonight will be successful. Ruby Slipper adds the important qualifier. You want to progress, not slide backwards. So the practice tonight is specific. Before you act, before you use the open door and the flowing current, take 3 minutes of stillness. Not hesitation, not more preparation. Just 3 minutes of the specific stillness that allows you to feel which direction is forward for you rather than familiar for you, because those are not always the same direction. And tonight, the current is strong enough to move you far, quickly, in whichever direction you are already leaning. 3 minutes. Eyes closed, hands open. The question is not, what should I do? The question is, what does my body know is next? Not what would be safe, not what would be responsible. What does the place in your chest that woke you at 3 a.m. 3 times in the last month already know is the direction? When the 3 minutes are complete, you will have an answer. It may not be the answer your comfort-maintaining mind would prefer. It may be exactly the answer your comfort-maintaining mind has been managing you away from for weeks. This is normal. This is Mars in Pisces, the warrior that circulates. The force that has been doing its preparation in the dark of the water and has arrived tonight at the king's threshold, ready to act on what the water revealed. Tonight, name one thing you are beginning, not planning to begin, not intending to begin when conditions improve. Beginning, present tense. The specific first step that makes the beginning real rather than theoretical. Write it down. Take that step before midnight. Let the current carry it forward, because Mars does not wait for perfect conditions. It assesses the current, finds the flow, and moves. And tonight the flow is pointed directly at whatever you have been building toward since the water took you in at the beginning of this month. What is the heavy lift you are finally doing tonight? Write it in the comments below, not the version you have workshopped into something safe. The version your hands already know how to do, even though your mind keeps generating reasons to wait. Someone will scroll to that comment in a different time zone, standing at their own open door, looking for the confirmation that another person moved when the current opened and the courage was available. Your one sentence is that confirmation. The door is open tonight. The king is waiting. What comes next is in your hands. Subscribe and turn on the bell. What Mars builds in Aries in the coming weeks is the direct consequence of what you begin tonight. When the warrior moves out of the water into the fire, what it is carrying determines everything about what the fire becomes. You will want to be here when the Aries phase ignites. The universe has spoken. What comes next is in your hands.